Um, my name is Captain Anthony Grassi, and I'm with Fin Chaser Charters, and we recently started a TV series called The Fin Chasers, which is a show that will come on in this fall on the Destination TV channel, the Outdoor Block. So we're excitingly filming some of the shows right now all over the country. We're actually going to go to Galapagos Island to also shoot a show. Next week we'll be fishing the White Marlin Open, and it's going to be exciting to to be actually on a TV series versus me always being a captain for other personalities. All right, John, I'm trying to go forward with my presentation. Is there something I have to do?
For your PowerPoint?
Yeah.
You may have to you should be able to either right or left click on your mouse or the up and down on your PC.
Okay, there we go. Let me just take this off of, all right, there we go. All right, so again, I'm with the Navionics Saltwater Marine Specialist. I assist Navionics with, primarily saltwater aspects to their charts, their apps, and it's been an exciting start. As a lot of people, I'm learning a lot of new things, a lot of new features, and hopefully I can use some of these features to help you guys catch more fish. I'm also a Ray Marine Pro Ambassador. I've been a Pro Ambassador with Ray Marine for over 10 years, and as well as a charter captain for 15 years. And we run a charter business out of New York and New Jersey. We have 4 boats and 3 captains. We have Frank Crescitelli and also Frank Wagenhofer as our captains. We have a few different boats that we're running right now, a 32 regulator, a 26 regulator, and a 23-foot Jones Brothers. And as we speak, we're building a 34-foot Buddy Davis, and that's going to be our premier boat of the fleet, and we're excited about that. If you have any additional questions or comments, please feel free to email me at finchaserNJ@gmail.com, or you could go check out our website at finchasercharters.com. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit before we get to structure fishing is why is New York City a world-class fishery? So, one of the things that many people don't know is that you can catch big fish on bait, artificial lures, as well as flies, 10 months out of the year, and all within minutes of downtown Manhattan, which is really exciting. Other bonuses is, of course, the sightseeing that you could do in New York, and the food's not half bad. Very good pizza and great restaurants. So I've guided many people that either fish around the world, and they really don't know what type of fishery that they have right there in their backyard. So I've taken people out that have lived in Manhattan most of their lives and fished everywhere, and when I take them out and they're catching a 40-pound bass right in their backyard, they're like so surprised that this is a world-class fishery. So some of the species that are well known in our area, as you can see, you have large bluefish, bluefish up to 20 pounds that we can catch in the fall, large fluke. Right there is Mariko Izumi. She has a TV show on WFN, and that was her first fluke that she caught, probably a 4.5, 5-pounder. and she didn't even realize that, that's a real trophy fish. As you can see right there, background is the Verrazano Bridge. Also some sea bass, on a lot of the little rock piles and structure, and striped bass, of course. You can see there this Larry and his wife. He's the president of Ray Marine, and we took them fishing out a couple of weeks ago, and they caught his largest bass right there under the shadow of the Statue of Liberty. And not so common, but we do catch trophy-sized weakfish in this area as well. So we get some good years and some not so good years. Now, some species that you might not be familiar with in this area are giant black drum, and we've had at least 4 or 5 of these fish every year, taking either some bait, or we've actually caught a few on bucktails, and on a light spinning rod. They sure are a lot of fun. Also, as a surprise, one year, a few years back, we caught a sturgeon on a fly in the Hudson River, and that was pretty exciting because I've never caught a fish like that, in that area. So, and I know there are many sturgeon in the Hudson River, but you don't hear a lot of people catching them. And especially, we caught that one on a fly, which was pretty exciting. So, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is our main focus, which is striped bass, and that's what we're famous for. We're fortunate that we have the second largest migration of striped bass. As you can see in the picture to the right, you could see the migration patterns of striped bass that come into New York. We get both the Chesapeake and Delaware River biomass that come to the New York Harbor. We have 2 migrations annually, so we're fortunate to get the large breeding fish in the spring, as well as in the fall when the fish are returning from the New England waters. We get more fish, but they're smaller. So in the spring, we do get the larger breeders that are coming in. As you can see on this screenshot, these striped bass are going to migrate well into the Hudson River, and as far north as even West Point, Croton on the Hudson, the Tappan Zee Bridge. We'll see large fish in the early spring, and I'm talking about April and May. The conditions really depend mainly on weather, water temperature, and movement of bait as well. One of the main reasons we do get a lot of fish that come in this area is because of the large menhaden, and we'll talk about that in a little while. So, why New York City? We have a lot of structure, and they're both man-made and natural, which is best way to find both prey and predator. As you can see right here by the Staten Island in the backdrop, we have 2 islands, and I'll show you some better screenshot pictures of them. But you have current, you have structure, and there you're going to have both bait fish, and with bait fish you are going to get the predators, mainly striped bass. Now, some of the structure that we can see come in all shapes and sizes. Many of these areas are all focused around New York City and in the harbor and just on the outskirts of the harbor. In the upper left, the backdrop being the Verrazano Bridge. We do a lot of fishing in that area. Recently, though, post 9/11, you know, you have to be careful how close you get to the bridge embankments in that area, and you want to stay, of course, out of traffic, you know, of the channels. To the right, we have lots of small islands, rock piles. You could see here we have a lot of old piers and pilings that are just, you know, not used. They're old, they're dilapidated, and of course, these are going to be great areas to hold fish. Also, in the bottom left, you're going to see that there are a lot of channel markers, small lighthouses that are scattered again throughout the harbor. These are all built on these large rock piles, and therefore give, you know, a great area for fish to feed as well as hide. In the right here, bottom right-hand picture, you'll see main channels that also deep, very deep channels. These channels can go as deep as 75 to 80 feet that are scattered throughout the harbor. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the structures that we don't see, and those are the ones that we need help with. And using chart helpers like Navionics, SonarChart, which is what most of my screenshots were taken from. As you can see, I used my app on my cell phone to assist me with a lot of the images that you're going to see in the presentation. Islands with a lot of points, docks that extend off the islands. This creates ambush points, which are vital for game fish, and you could see along the edges these contour lines. Now, what I'd like to do is, when I'm fishing these type of areas, it's very important because of these. This is a tidal area, and I really want to pay close attention to my tide charts. And fortunately, on my app, with the Navionics app, you could create little menus of different tide stations, all on one page. And with this, you know, I could create what my strategy is to fish that day. I also want to look for tidal, you know, tides and currents, which are very important. Now, some of these waterways around New York, you know, the tides could really start ripping pretty good, even as fast as 7, 10 knots. So it's important to, you know, to go to the areas when you're going to have your flood tide. So I'd like to try to set up to fish these areas 2 hours before, and I'll stay to 2 hours after a flood tide, so that I'm also, you know, I'm getting both incoming and outgoing, you know, tide features. Again, a great way to set this up, you could have sunrise and sunset. You could have, you know, what the winds are in that area, and again, these are some New Jersey points that I'm using right now, because we're fishing more in New Jersey now than in the New York area. And as you can see right here, you could see the currents of the Point Pleasant Canal. So this is a great, one of the many great features that you get with the app that you could use on any smartphone or any personal device that you have. You could see in this bottom right-hand corner, this is one of the islands that's located near the Verrazano Bridge. This is, you know, this area is not only a spring and fall fishery. A lot of times during the summer, we get some of the smaller school fish like this. We get them on light tackle and on fly as well. So even though our main migratory fish come in the spring and fall, we do get resident fish that stay there all summer as well as all winter. I mean, even in the cold of December and January, you could still find resident fish located all throughout the city. One time I was down in downtown Manhattan by Fulton's Fish Market, walking around the edge of the docks there, and I noticed this guy fishing off. It was Christmas week, vacation week, and he was fishing off the dock there, and he was catching some small striped bass, 4 or 5 pounders, but he was catching a lot of them, and I was really surprised that those fish were there. So another location that I like to fish in this area are obstructions, and obstructions could be wrecks, rock piles, any type of debris that's underwater. And luckily with the SonarChart, you could see where they'll show obstructions, small obstructions, and these could be small rock piles. They could be rock piles, the size of a 10 by 10 area. And those are the areas that I like to mark to just make, they hold a lot of fish. So if, not only do you have obstructions, but you also have contour changes. And some of these are drastic contour changes. And I like to fish usually on top of these to let, my baits kind of flow down depending on the tide off these small ledges. On the upper right, you'll see that, again, a small rock pile could be, again, no larger than a 10 by 10 area. So having a good sonar helps you pick up a lot of these small wreck piles or wrecks, and again, keep a log of where these places are, and also mark them on your charts. Another one that I like to fish are contour changes near docks. As you can see in this area, there is drastic contour changes as well as docks, and a lot of these docks that are scattered throughout Manhattan, Staten Island, Brooklyn, a lot of them are old, and again, these are great structures for holding fish. There's been some cameras that you could see below, all the mussels that are on the side, which then creates small biomasses that are within these little community of pilings. Here you have a dock that's, again, dilapidated, which, again, makes great coverage for these bait and as well as predatory fish. Here you could see us in a flats boat fishing some of these pieces. We did a TV show with a shallow water angler, and they came up to just do a small segment on structure fishing, and he wound up doing 3 shows out of it because he didn't realize, the host didn't realize the variety of fish and that we have in our area and different techniques on how we catch them. So again, looking at our plotter here, you could see a lot of contour changes, submerged ruins, which are great areas to fish, and broken docks and pilings. These are perfect combinations, for catching fish. Another one I like to fish is channel edges. These channel edges, again, some of them can be very deep, and they offer great places for large fish to hide, and they're again scattered throughout the New York City area. You could see in this one small section, you have a few main channels that are located right in this direct area. Now this over here is Staten Island, and I'm going to show you in some further slides of very specific areas that I like to fish. But I just wanted to show you that these channels are great areas to fish around. In between the channels, you have anchorage areas, you have shoals, and they just create great habitats for fishing. All right. So let's move on to some famous areas that you wouldn't suspect catch a lot of fish. And one of my favorite places to fish, especially in the spring, is the East River. And I know the East River isn't the easiest river to navigate. I've bent a few props on some floating debris, but it's well worth going up and giving it a shot. There is a lot of areas to fish. There is a lot of current. Current with structure equals fish. And any type of fish that you're after, any game fish, you need current and you need structure, because the structure is going to hold the bait, and and then the current is also equally important for these areas as well. One of my favorite, I'm sure it's not a secret spot, but I want to share this area with you guys because I've had tremendous success there. I've won some striped bass tournaments with catching fish right in this area. You could see this little island here, and just looking at this screenshot, look at all the changes of contour. Okay, this area right here, if you see where my cursor is, this area here is where the United Nations building is. So when you're going up the East River and you see the United Nations building, you're fishing this whole area right here. This screenshot is one of these ledges, and you can see the bait that's just hanging right over them. You have to be very, very careful fishing in this area, not only because of the boat traffic, but because of the current, and the current rips through here. You got to remember, up the river, you get into Hell's Gate, and Hell's Gate is where the Long Island Sound empties, this way. So there's a lot of water coming through the East River. So what I try to do is I try to piggyback as the tide is moving in and out. What I'll do is I'll find the area that I want to start at, and then I'll bring up my anchor, and then I'll move up and try to keep catching the tide so that I'm about a half hour, 45 minutes before and after the flood tide. You only have a short window of opportunity here because when the tide's ripping, it's very difficult to keep your baits on the bottom, 8-ounce, 10-ounce sinkers, and the water's moving pretty quickly. One of the things I wanted to share with you is a rig that was designed by a friend of mine. We call it the Fitzy Rig, and he came up with this idea because when we were fishing this area, he was noticing every time we throw in a handful of chunks, it's halfway up the river before it gets down to the spot that we wanted to fish. I wish I had a picture of it, but I'll explain a little bit about what the rig looks like. It's heavy sinkers. We have like an 8-ounce and 10-ounce sinker put together, and with that we have about a foot-long piece of mono crimped to the sinkers, and on the other side of the sinkers we have a flatline clip. Okay, and what we do is when we chop up some bunker, I'll kind of needle it through with the mono through the chunks, get about 6 or 8 chunks on the rig, and then I'll crimp it. I'll use the clip to clip it, and then what I'll do is slowly drop the rig to the bottom. I'll snap the the rod up. It'll open from the flatline clip, and then now the chunks are right there on the bottom, right by your baits. So if you're interested in any information about the rig or how to make one, again, feel free to email me. I'd love to share some of some of my secrets that we use that help us be successful. There are other options. I know there's some commercial bait deployers, but this is just a simple rig that you can make using just sinkers, a foot or two of heavy mono, and a flatline clip. And again, you could put on about a half dozen to 8 or 9 baits on there, chunks, and then you drop it to the bottom, give it a snap, and you'll see, then all of a sudden you'll start attracting fish, right where your baits are, keeping all your chum and your baits in the zone that you're going to catch fish. Now, I also have trolled these areas along, they call it the Roosevelt Reef here. I've trolled some like Niners rigs, shad rigs. You're not really trolling like traditional letting out, wire line. What you're doing is kind of jigging with some Niners rigs, and again, very successful. Sometimes if I get there a little too early and the tide's still moving, I'll drop down some heavy jigs or heavy bucktails, and either going with the tide or the tide is moving out. But if you notice right around this Belmont Island, and you're getting close, I mean, you're within 25, 30 feet of this island, and it's right in the middle of the East River. You could see these contour lines. These are great areas to fish. I like to try to stay in this 20 to 35 foot range, and we've been very successful. April and May are my 2 months that I like to come up there. But again, be careful because there is a lot of boat traffic. Most of the boat traffic go in between here. Also, if famous people are at the UN, like the president or some diplomats, they're not very happy if you're anchoring in this area. So you might get asked not to stay in this place during those times. But out of the dozen years that I've fished this area, I bet you it's happened to me once or twice. So a couple of other areas that I love to fish are it's called the Buttermilk Channel and Diamond Reef. Here you could see Lower Manhattan. This is where the helicopters take off. Here's the Battery. Fulton's is up here a little bit, and here's Governor's Island. And again, if you're looking at this sonar chart, it's really changed the way I fish, because now I'm seeing a lot more contours. I'm being more efficient going to the areas that I want to fish. This area called Diamond Reef is a great place to fish. Tides, again, I'd like to get in here like 2 hours before so I can fish 2 hours before and 2 hours after. And here's the channel. There's the channel here, and then the Buttermilk Channel on this side. And what I like to do is I like to anchor my boat kind of right on the ledge in that 25-foot area. And again, trying to attract migrating fish that are going up and down the channels to come up on this reef area. And again, it's a great spring area that doesn't have a lot of pressure. Sometimes you'll see 1 or 2 boats there, and the boats that fish there are either charter boats or people that know the area well. Here you could see a better shot of the area, and again, like to fish these points. Right here you have the the steep contour drops that are going down 15, 20 feet into the channel areas. Sometimes I'll move even in the shallower area, especially in the early spring, where the water's a little warmer, and again, this is a good spot to fish. So here, it's simple. It's coming up into the harbor and going in between. You could either come up this area from Governor's, or you could come around and fish this whole area. And this place could support 5 or 6 boats at any time. It's a pretty good large area, and there's a lot of fish too in this place. Okay, another 2 areas that I'd like to fish here is towards the Staten Island side. This here is Staten Island. Over here is Bayonne, New Jersey. Again, I showed a clip of all the channels that are coming through here. These are all deep channels that are used for commercial traffic, but right nestled in the middle is an area that I love to fish. It's called Robbins Reef. It's on the Staten Island side. There's again, a lot of deep channels. There's lots of structure. There's permanent markers that are on these rock piles. There's a small navigation anchorage buoy marker right here. And again, you could see a lot of great structure. And it shoals. I mean, if you look, it gets into 5, 6 feet, 8 feet. This is a great area for early spring bass. Doesn't get a lot of pressure. You have deep channels. All these areas are where fish are migrating. And during the day when the sun is high, you get a lot of crabs and worms and things coming out of these rock piles, and they become perfect food for predatory fish. So these are 2 good areas. This is a great area that I like to fish. Another area that I'd like to fish a lot is just south of the Verrazano Bridge. Again, this is the Ambrose Channel right here. This is a great area to fish along the side of. There are a lot of small wrecks that are located on the edges. A lot of big 50-pound fish have been caught here in April and May. Even into June, there's been still some big fish being caught, because not only are you catching fish that are coming into migrate and spawn, but you're also getting fish coming back out of the Hudson River. Over here on the Staten Island side, you have a lot of, you have 2 small islands that are great areas. You have a lot of rips and shoals that be careful, because you can, hit bottom. Right here you have the West Bank area, East Bank area, and you have the Burrow pits. And these are areas that are, these were pits that were dug out to use. They wanted to use this to drop, sludge and things that they dug up and up in the upper bays and stuff. But But these areas here are also very good areas for springtime fishing. You'll see a lot of schools of large bunker that are up on these flats along Staten Island, and along these little edges they create these small rip lines, and we've had great success fishing these areas on both sides of the channel as well. Now on the right, you'll see an area that we like to fish a lot, and this area is right off of Brooklyn, and it's called not Schwimborn Island. This area right here is a reef. It gets up very shallow. This is where we caught the sturgeon on a fly. This spring, this whole area was very good. Towards late spring, late May, early June, this area was very good for bass this year. A lot of people were anchoring outside the channel or in between the channel and up on this reef. Again, structure, contour is just a great combination for catching fish. So another place that we were fishing this year, right outside of Brooklyn, you could see it's a very shallow area, 14, 15 feet. Here you got Brooklyn, and it was really loaded with bunker this year. So awesome size schools of bunker and big pods all throughout this shallow area, actually right up to the rock walls in this area. And these large bunker schools, what you would do if you didn't already catch your bunker prior, you could snag and just drop, right in this area. I don't like to snag and drop because I like to release all my fish, so I prefer to cast net and catch my bait for the day. And also I don't like, when I have charters, having people ripping big weighted treble hooks through the water when I have 4 or 5 people on the boat. But again, not every year, but this past year, this happened to be an awesome place to fish. And again, we caught bluefish in here. I've caught fluke in here. And when the bait's in here, it's a great area. And also you're getting out of boat traffic, which is nice too. It's usually, and also it's a very protected area. So if it's a little windy in other areas, this is a great place to tuck away and find some fish. So those are some of my main areas, that you guys can fish. There's places there, and even after 15 years, that I'll try new places every year. Just be exploratory and just use some of the techniques of fishing points, fishing broken piers, fishing small rock piles, docks, points, currents. Just try different spots, and you'll definitely be successful. I wanted to talk about some of the bait that you would find in these areas. These happen to be from some fish that we caught, and they spit up on the boat. You'll see silver sides, which are spearing. You'll find anchovies, crabs. You got fiddler crabs, calico, blue claw, eels, squid, clams, mussels, and even small lobsters get spit up in these areas, and all different types of worms, that we've had. Some I don't even recognize, but a lot of these items you really want to pay attention to, because you know, one of my techniques is always matching the hatch. You know, when you're fly fishing or artificial fishing or bait fishing. I mean, if they're spitting up, spearing in anchovies, and you're throwing, you know, big bunker at them, and you're wondering why they're not going after the bunker, you know, you want to try to definitely match the hatch. So the most important biomass of bait in our area is the menhaden or moss bunker, whatever you would like to call them, depending on your region. These are our go-to baits, and what we like to do is cast net for them. We use for the large menhaden, we use a 10-foot cast net with 1-inch, 2-inch stretch mesh. You want to have the larger mesh size for the larger baits because you know, the net will sink faster. You know, if you're having a typical morning out with a couple of guys, you really only need about 25 to 30 pieces. You know, too often do I see people loading up their boat with bunker, and then at the end of the day they're throwing half of it back. So there's really no need, and then it's less stress in your live wells, you know, having not as many bait in them. So in the spring, we like to use the large menhaden. These fish come in large schools. In fact, we fished up there a couple of weeks ago, and there's still giant schools of bunker in the bay, acres, you know, in size, and that really had a lot to do with the net bans and pushing these bunker trawlers that are killing these fish for omega oil. There's really very little value commercially for them, but you know, they'll use these oils from this fish because they are a very oily fish, which is what makes them a great bait. You know, and since they've stopped that, we've seen, you know, definitely an improvement in the time that we're catching fish. You know, still catching bass up to 30, 40 pounds, even as recently as last week, which, you know, in past history, once the bait was gone, these fish would then move on, you know, to go up to Montauk and north up to Cape Cod in Maine. On the right, you'll see is a peanut bunker, and this is a large peanut bunker. They come a little smaller than that. You'll catch them mainly in end of July and August. You'll see small schools. They like to concentrate around small docks and you know, small areas. This I would use a smaller cast net. 3/8 would be a good net size. And again, usually one good throw on a school would give you enough bait to use for the day, as well as I'd like to throw handfuls at a time to a piece of structure to get the fish kind of motivated and going a little crazy. And you'll notice too, if you're anchored up and you throw a whole bunch of peanut bunker, they'll stay next to the boat. So it's like having a little living aquarium underneath your boat. At the bottom right, you'll notice, you know, these bass will eat these fish whole, and that was a very large size menhaden or bunker. So some of the tools of the trade that I like to use. My favorite way to fish artificials is to fish with top water. There's nothing more exciting than seeing surface strikes. One of my favorite lures is a Guide Secret. They're called baby bottle pops, and Guide Secret makes, it's one of our companies. We manufacture plastic lures that are strong enough to withstand even up to rooster fishing down in South America. They're all through wired VMC 4X hooks. They're hand painted, so they're really strong. So they'll last a long time, even with the amount of bluefish that we catch with them. So some of my favorite lures that I'd like to use are the new Slim Twitchy, which is a small bait fish. Again, these top water baby bottle pops, pencil poppers are also good when there's a lot of sand eels in the area. So I really like to fish with the artificial over bait because, you know, it's keeping the clients active and casting. But if it's difficult, we'll go to, you know, to the bait rigs. Two kind of basic, simple rigs that we use in our area is using a three-way swivel with a 50-pound fluorocarbon leader. I try to use only circle hooks because of our catch and release policy. This year, I made a commitment that I wasn't going to keep a fish. I'm part of a movement called 1 at 32, which is, you know, keeping fish at 32 inches and not those big breeder fish that you see people, you know, catching. But my commitment was not to keep any striped bass this year. So this is a great rig. Here, I like to put a 1-foot 30-pound or something lighter to a bank sinker, and the reason is if I get a snag, I just lose the sinker and not necessarily the whole rig. Over to the right, you'll have a fish finder rig, which, you know, popular with fluke fishing and as well as chunk fishing for bass. Having a sinker on a slider also allows finicky fish to pick up baits and not feeling the resistance of a sinker. And a lot of times, you know, I've had bass 10, 15 minutes, you know, toying around with the bait or the chunk and before taking a commitment on them. And then to the bottom right, one of my favorite way to fish this area is fly fishing. A lot of my clientele are fly fishermen. Again, it's important to match the hatch with your flies in the spring. You know, when there are those large foot-long bunker, you need to match the hatch. So we'll use bunker flies that are up to a foot long, and using sinking lines, you know, getting those flies down deep where the fish are. You know, you have good chances of catching 25 to 30-pound stripers on a large fly. In the summer, I like to, you know, get small and use clousers and half and halves, any of the small bait patterns, like, you know, ones that would mimic a peanut bunker. And again, in the summer, I'll use intermediate fly lines to get down, you know, only a few feet off the surface when I'm fishing the shallow shoals. And then when I'm fishing the deeper areas, I like to use, as you can see here, like a weighted line that would get down, you know, 20 feet. So, you know, I was always talking about before, catch and release. It's really important. And here you can see, you know, you're fishing the New York Harbor. I mean, there's a lot of pollution. There's still PCBs. You know, these game fish are eating, you know, things that are coming out of the ground, and you know, and it's, you know, they're high levels. They're not, you know, you can eat a few, but I wouldn't recommend it. And so therefore, when I'm fishing this type of area, I do release a lot of my fish. Another thing I wanted to just, you know, before I'm ending here, is to talk about safety. And, you know, the New York Harbor is not like your typical place to fish, okay? Some of the things I really wanted to, you know, stress is stay out of the way from all ship traffic. I had a friend that boat stalled a couple of years ago, and he had a close call from a large ship that was coming up the Ambrose Channel. And some of these ships, it takes a long time for them to stop or to maneuver. So, you know, you have to stay out of their way. They're restricted in draft. They're restricted in maneuverability. Okay. Always have a lookout, even when fishing. So, you know, when you're fishing, I know you're concentrating on fishing, but always have somebody looking around the boat, and be prepared that if you got to get out of the way, get some way, get out of, off your anchor, and to move out of the way. I always tell people, always be prepared to be checked. The Coast Guard, especially, and even the military. I mean, we're in the post 9/11, out there, and you'll have a lot of military people there, and I've been boarded by special forces. They'll come up to the boat to check out what you're doing. I've been checked, often by the Coast Guard, but as the year progresses, they kind of know what our boats look like and what we're doing there. But you have to be prepared for being checked. Before fishing or traveling at night, and a lot of our charters that we do out of Manhattan, we're dropping them off at 9, 10 o'clock at night up at Chelsea Pier. You got to be able to be experienced in the area, have a good radar and a good chart plotter, and make sure that you're looking all around. There are a lot of fuel barges that are parked on these anchorage areas. Just stay away from them, and stay away from the areas that are anchorage areas. Okay? Definitely do not anchor or fish in the channels. I know some of the channel edges, but again, keep your boat running. Be prepared to get out of the way quickly. Now, one thing that Navionics app shows is the security zone buoys, the areas that you cannot, cannot go in. They're white buoys. It'll have a security zone on them, and especially by the Statue of Liberty or some of the ports by where the cruise ships are. You definitely got to stay out of those security zones. And again, one of the things on the app, it shows you where they are, so you can make sure that you do stay out of those areas. I'm kind of a little long-winded here. I thought I was only going to go on for like a half hour, but I had a lot of information that I want to get to you guys. Again, I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Again, it was my first one. Didn't know what to expect. My email, we'll take some questions now, but my email, finchaser.nj@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments that you want to ask me, please, I try to share my knowledge. I always try, and it's amazing when I'm out fishing and people come near me and I tell them, I'm catching fish, they seem surprised. I like to share this fishery, and I'd like everybody to enjoy it, and especially children. Get children out there, fishing, and it's a great way of making a living, like I try to do. But it's also keeps them off the video games. So, John, I guess if there's any questions.
Anthony, first of all, great job. It makes me want to go fishing up in New York instead of just taking my wife to go shopping like she always likes to do. Yeah, great job. Do appreciate it. Yeah, guys, if there's any questions or anything, type them in. We'll give it a minute or two, see if anything comes up. Thank you very much for doing this tonight. I do appreciate it. Right now, it looks like there's not too many questions, but that's okay. I appreciate the guys that were on, and gals. We had a few females on there tonight. Awesome. We'll give it a minute or two. If I don't see any questions being typed in, we'll wrap it up. And Anthony, again, thank you for your knowledge, especially around that area. I know it can be very tricky. In boating, I have boated up there myself over the years, and you are 100% correct. You better pay attention, or you could be a fatality. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff going on up there, but I never knew it was that good of a fishery. Oh yeah. Let me see here. We do have a question. How much difference is the fall run? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I get the question.
Is fishing in the fall. How much difference is the fishing in the fall? Sorry about that. Yep.
Yeah. No. See, the fall compared to the spring. I mean, the fall is where you're going to get your large, blitzes. This is where you're going to get a lot of surface action. As the water gets cold up in the tributaries, all the small baits are going to start moving out of there, and they're going to come out to the harbor and out into the bay. And this is where you're going to get those traditional fall blitzes. I've been finding, though, that these fall run is now turning almost into a winter run, and some of my best fishing is the week of Christmas break, and where the water temperatures are really starting to drop. The traditional September, October, it hasn't been as good in the past. So this is a great question. I mean, everybody's saying, all right, the fall, but I tell people, I said, hey, don't be surprised if I'm calling you at the end of November or into December that, hey, the time to get smaller fish, but more fish is going to be November, late November, Thanksgiving into Christmas, Christmas break. I try to fish into Christmas, but if that starts interfering with our duck guiding business, because we do guide ducks in the winter down on the Barnegat Bay, so I kind of make that transition at that time. So if it's a real late bite, I probably have already transitioned into duck hunting. But that's a great question. Yeah, totally two different types of fish. Spring, big fish, maybe not as many, and then the fall, winter, or beginning of winter are larger quantities but smaller fish.
Great. That was from Anthony. Anthony? And we have a question from John. His question was, what do you look for when scouting for a new area?
Okay, yeah, scouting new areas. Well, again, look, I'll do my homework at night, now that I have, the apps on my phone and on my iPad. I'll start just looking at places that I think are going to be fishy areas. I mean, other than the signs that you're going to see, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing bait that are going to, stay in one area. Of course, you got to stay there. And bait moves. Like this year, I fished two areas that I don't normally go to, but because you had the conditions of the bait being there, the fish were there. So I like to look at my charts the night before, and I'll always try, especially if it's a slow day, I'll always try to go find some new places. The East River, I mean, although it's one of my favorite places to go up, there's so many places I haven't even tried yet. So yeah, that was a good question.
Anthony, at this point, we're going to have to wrap it up because we're running out of time. If you do have any more questions, guys, please feel free to contact Anthony. If you want to give him your email address just one more time, and then we'll call it a night. And thanks again. I appreciate your help with this. I'll stop the recording on my end then because I got it covered.
All right, awesome. Okay, so it's finchaser.nj@gmail.com, and you could look at our website at finchasercharters.com as well, and look for our TV show called The Fin Chasers this fall on the Destination Channel. It's called The Outdoor Block. All right.
And guys, if you want to hear this recording again, it will be available probably in a day or three through Navionics on our website at navionics.com. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate everybody showing up. Thanks.
Awesome.